Hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Decent start of the week, short week, guys. After the long weekend, we closed last week pretty solid. You saw my Friday recap. So this morning kind of started slow. Morning all day was a chop. We did short the market in the mornings, but let's recap. There are definitely some all day winners in NVDA, some all day shorts, some nice day two setups, and we will cover everything. So before I do that, let's do a quick introduction. So, guys, these trade recaps, these teachings are from the trade ideas that I share with you guys on Twitter, or I share with you guys on YouTube, or any ideas that I trade in the community. These ideas, either I'm trading them, either I'm not trading them, but most of them I'm guiding my traders through. A lot of ideas, like today there was a MRNA trade which was on the trading floor by one of our traders. So we cover those all those ideas and see how we made money, how we lost money, and what was what was the setup behind it, what was the system. We do not trade random, we trade a fixed setup, fixed system. My Ripster EMA Cloud system, thousands of traders across the world use it to trade consistently. We use that system, and then I have a fixed setups that you guys see in all my YouTube recaps, also in my webinars, that we trade based upon that system. If their fixed setup does not show up, we do not trade anything, right? So there are fixed number of setups. We trade in the morning setups, 9:30 to 10 a.m. There's some amateur move setups, and then there's a trend move setups. Then we have some midday setups, some curl setups, some breakout setups. So they repeat. We always repeat them. So we don't ever trade random. So, anyways, every day when the market open, me and my team, we create a game plan for the day based upon the news, pre-market gap ups, gap down. You can see the game plan of the today was right in front of you. INSM, DKNG, ENPH, Kawa, SC, FUTU, CrowdStrike, DUOL, among others. These were on our watch list today. In addition to that game plan, I also share something that my strategy that I invented, that we call it as day 2 day 3 setups. You if you watch my previous YouTube recap, I recap them all every day. There we have our day 2 day 3 setups, and if any of these setups trigger, we take them long or short based upon EMA Clouds, based upon the support pivots and resistance pivots that I provide to the community. If something triggers something that I like, so I take a look at it. So there were some decent movers on this RL, DUOL, Workday. These were some decent movers based upon this our day 2 day 3. So in addition to that, I always also share the daily levels with everyone 20 minutes before the market open. These are our SPY, QQQ, Apple, Microsoft levels. These levels can be used as support and resistance pivots to trade with EMA Clouds, long or short, using your system. You can pause the screen and you can see how these levels are used by the community, or how can you use it and see how these levels pan out. On a choppy day, these, it's, that if the levels are not being crossed, we will chop. On a trend day, these levels are pretty nice for the breakout trade, just like we will see how these levels panned out for ARM breakout, which I will recap as well. So the next one, so we also have our crypto levels. We can trade Bitcoin, MSTR, Mara, and other stocks based upon our breakout levels. So you can pause the screen, see how they worked out. So I'm on the voice every day, few hours after the market open, guiding through the market analysis, market commentary. If I like something long or short, I say that. If I'm taking some position, I tell them. I just try to guide my community through the trades in the morning, and I'm all day have a guidance going on. That's how I will show you my time-stamped comments today that were in the community. So I will show you and see how each trade panned out. So anyways, that's the welcome, and now let's start with the first trade of the day. The first one that we're going to look at is, first one we're going to look at is NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA was, what was NVIDIA doing? So NVIDIA was also like a day 2 day 3 setup, right? So we can consider as our day 2 day 3 setup. And we know last week the earnings were solid, and we traded the earnings, and it was gapping up because they are going to split. And so it's bullish. So a lot of funds are, institutions are loading up. So a lot of strength this morning. There was a lot of strength. Let's see how we traded it. Let's go back, and first of all, let's go back and look at our levels for the day on NVIDIA. So let's go and let's look at the levels. So NVIDIA levels that I gave this morning was basically 1105 was the resistance pivot. That was the breakout pivot. But more than the levels, this morning there was so much flow. So we have our scanners. We have our flow scanners that we stream every day. So we had scanners which all day there was like NVIDIA calls all day, right? So we noted that right in the morning that they are buying. I even tweeted about it that they are buying insane amount of calls out of the money 1150 1140. I was on the voice. I was telling the community that how they keep buying the flow, right? So you can see here in the morning I tweeted about that how they keep buying the flow, insane amount of flow. And then I saw the strength in the morning. I was not trading it initially. You can see I even told my community that's a relative strength. I talked about the flow, so it gives you that added confidence that it's really a strong move. So when it was flagging, you see one candle, two candle, three candle, almost for an hour it flagged before it. That's where I got interested into the long trade, right? So that's when I told my community. I also tweeted the flag breakout that it did hold 512 clouds, never broke the 512 cloud. 1122 is the breakout, 1130 is the target, and we broke out 11:30 we broke out. And if you see that, then after that it was just the move. You just have to follow the move. You see that on the Twitter. So I'm showing you that the move 11:27, then 11:40, and then 11:50, right? So everything was not hindsight, everything explained. And I was giving, and somebody asked me, Rip, how are you giving these targets? So when the stock is at this price, this level, you can always use uh, multiples of 10, multiples of 5. It's a good easy target, right? Something which is moving with ATR, and you used ATR as well, right? So ATR for NVIDIA is $40. So that means if NVIDIA opened at 1100, we know that we can push to 1140 by end of the day. So that's why I gave you 1140, right? So that's why I gave the 1140 target. Now, how did I get 1150 target? The strength was so strong, and 1150 is a psychological level. I always teach you psychological levels, hundreds, 50s. So it was obvious that if strength holds, that's where we will hit. So you see that high of the candle, was almost, we were right there, right into our targets of 1150. And by this move, you could trade 1150, you could trade a lotto, 1200 lottos, which I was talking about since the breakout. They went from like $2, $3 to $8. 1150 was a nice trade. So you could trade that. And then you can also trade, trade some EDFs. You can trade NVDX shares, or you can trade NVDL shares. So NVDL is 2 times the leveraged NVIDIA ETF. So you could long at 57, and by the end of the day, you could take profits at 62, or you can swing it, right? So you can see that it's a similar chart, similar setup. So you can trade that ETF. So there's many ways to trade NVIDIA and capitalize on that big move. Now I told everyone, and look at this, right? When it pulled back, this is the previous breakout. The concept I teach you guys again and again and again, the previous breakout. And then cloud pullback. Previous resistance become new support, and we continue to push. I have some lotos that I'm swinging on Nvidia. I did tell everyone, if you are profitable, swing some. They are already up, and let's see, maybe we see 1200 this week. Big euphoria before we finally kind of a pullback, take a breather, right? Because the split is on what date? Split is on June 24, so still a lot of days for oh sorry, it's June 10th, right? So it's not much too much of a time. Maybe we do sell the news after split, I don't know. But there's definitely a strength there. So this was the trade today, how to trade this, how to find the targets, and how to trade some other ETFs if you can't trade Nvidia. All right, guys. So timestamped comments are right here on the left side. You can read them and you can watch it. And also alerted on the Twitters today. Somebody was like, "Hey, on Twitter, hey, you're not giving us a position alert." See, if you can't take an idea, the point on Twitter is education, right? And if you can't take that breakout idea, then you will never execute. You have to have that confidence to execute, right? So anyways, so well done in the community. Very proud of the whole community on NVIDIA today. So let's look at next trade that we had from our game plan. That was INSM. INSM has a positive top line results. Support was 48.40, resistance was 53. I told everyone under 48 we can pull back, right? So that was the game plan. So now what happens? So what happens that INSM when it so INSM, when I saw that, let's see, it was gapping from, it was from 23 bucks all the way to 50 bucks, right? It doesn't necessarily have to come all the way back. That's not how it works because the news is bullish, but it's biotech. There's, of course, there's some kind of profit. So based upon that, we take you see here, right? Right here, when 512 EMA clouds are breaking down. So that is my first signal that I can short it. And also have a defined risk over high of the day, right? 50 psychological level is a decent risk as well. That would be my preferred entry closer to the 50. But anyways, if you $1 risk and it faded all the way to 44, so there was $5 to $6 profit. So you can see that start a short right at the open and all day guidance on INSM. And you can see my short here. I was short at 48.96. You can see my entry there, and then I was even short when it was right here at end of the day 44.69, and that's where I covered. And by end of the day when it was curling here, right here, it never curled over 512, so there was no reason to cover this short until this level, right? So that's where I exited my short for a big win and a stress-free win, right? That's what I'm saying. If you're short, let's say you're short 2,000 shares, right? You're risking 2,000 bucks, and by the end of the day you are making 7-8,000 grand, right? So 2,000 into 3, 6 grand, 2,000 into 4, 8 grand. Let's say you scale out, even then it was easier to make at least 5 to 6 grand holding your winners, and you could reheat the short. I actually scaled some puts when this fade happened. I did mention it, right? When I see that, I think I mentioned it somewhere. When this level broke, this was another kind of a short scalp, right? You cover mostly everything here, and then you see, is it getting over the clouds? If it's not getting over the clouds, you reheat on this fade, and then you cover end of the day. All the guidance, voice guidance in the community, and you can see the timestamp comments here. Let's go to the next one. CELH. So let's look at CELH. So what was happening with CELH today? So CELH it's like our long-term play. I gave a long-term investment idea on CELH at 48.50 bucks, and we track it every day. But I did share this chart, what was happening with CLH here. You see this red candle, same at 100 psychological level, power of 100 psychological level. That's why we talked about taking profit at 100 level on our swing. Anyways, so today there was a downgrade. I personally missed that downgrade, but the traders in the community was on top of CELH, and they were tracking it in the morning on CELH, and we were talking about that. We didn't realize there was a downgrade. But anyways, we saw it. Traders asked me, Rip, what's going on? I strictly warned them, do not buy it. Very heavy. Do not buy it. Very heavy. On the voice, I talked about CELH being heavy. No, do not buy it. Right, leave it alone. And I started giving my warnings right in the morning from 87, 86. I told them don't buy 84, 82. Even I told them do not buy 80. Right. So short was good. A lot of traders shorted it using our system. So that was beautiful. Everybody, I personally didn't short it, but a lot of the traders in community were shorted. But now that's fine. You trade short, and you get out here on the extensions. Now you trade the reversal setup. We trade the reversal setup. So how did we trade the reversal setup? Okay, so anyways, there's a lot of guidance where I told everybody do not long. I saw some basing here, but this failed. But then I saw the hammer here, this hammer, and that's where I got interested to take a starter. Remember, it's against the trend C minus trade. It's a low probability trade, so I take a starter. When it starts to push over 512 clouds, I add into my position. and then I hold, I scale all out on the way. And this one I was trading the lotos. I also have some shares, so I can show you. So you see that how I bought at $2, then I bought more at 220. Those were my 78 calls. Then I sold at 285, 355, 390, 410. It was a 150% trade, and the target's always 34.50, right? So target is always 34.50. So if you see, that's what the target I gave everyone, 34.50 target, 34.50 target, right? So a lot of traders in the community traded that. It's a reversal setup. It's a time. You can repeat it as many as times you want it. These are the setups, right? A lot of traders were trading it in the community. RGV did good on that. You see that RGV did good. He had it average 79.42. So RGV wasn't very nicely doing it. And then we had you can see my tweet that I tweeted as well, right? So I'm trying to curl, and I did warn everybody while waiting for confirmation, and it's a time to curl. So when I try to curl means it's a long idea, right? If it failed the curl, I would have told it's failed the curl. But and from that idea, even on Twitter, it went on to curl to 83, right? So there you options, some options went 200%. So that's how you make repeatable, consistent money, guys, with these setups. Sometimes this setup will fail, the reversal setups will not work, but then what? If I'm here and I'm stopping out 77, it's just $1, loss, or maybe on lotos it's nothing, a small loss, that's fine. But look how many dollars did I make, right? I made $5 if I risked $1. So that is the reward, guys. That is the reward, and that's the power of the system. So CELH, beautiful reversal trade, everything in front of you, time stamped my entries. And sometimes some people say, hey Rip, you don't tell us when you buy. Okay, so I told everybody I'm buying the starter, and I will add more. On the voice I told that if it pushes over 512 cloud. So that's how we nailed it today. Beautiful trade, CELH. Let's go to the next one. So next one we're going to talk about is DUOL, right? So DUOL, I was on the voice, but let's go back to the plan. So DUOL, JP Morgan 260 profit target, price target, 184 resistance, 180, and it was a swing watch versus 180. That means I want to add it as a swing versus 180 support if it breaks 184. And then when I saw it in the morning pushing higher, and then I told everybody we can long it. I really like it as a swing. And in the morning on the voice, I told everyone, and then my first target on DUOL was 194. And then we hit 196, right? So there might be some more info on the UOL. If I you see that, right? You see that the resistance breakout of the 184 that I had a target on. Trend holding as long as 512 holds. It did pull back, that's fine. But reason I'm holding is because I'm interested in this daily chart. Now we'll see if tomorrow it breaks 190, maybe we will exit it, but I'm very interested in this daily chart. So logged some profit today intraday, but now we know any pullbacks are a buy. Any pullbacks are a buy. So not a big position yet. So we'll see how it does tomorrow. Ideally, don't really want it to, it can pull back to 1 hour 184, so that can be a good buy as well. So we'll watch how it does. For now, nice winner today intraday, and also let's see how the swing works out for us. All right, let's look at FUTU. FUTU was scratch to a loser. There was enough time to make money on the FUTU, but I wanted to see a trend. Let's see how it did not work out for a trend move, right? So FUTU was bullish bias if 74.50 holds. Breakout was over 77.25. So I gave everyone the breakout, right? So I did give everyone this breakout. And as soon as it was breaking out, that's where I took a long position. And I had a little bit, little late entries, on the push 78, but we did get a decent push to make profits on the trend move, right? Amateur move winner. There was decent because it was running for first 10 minutes. It was decent push, but after the amateur move, it just gave up, right? It just gave up. I didn't really take any profits, and when it broke, I cut it. Not much, not a big loss, but that's why you have to wait for that's why I keep telling there are a lot of new traders in the community today. That's why I keep talking about that. You need to know about the trend and amateur move. This was amateur move, and the trend move pullbacks did not work. and then it was a losing trade. That's fine, we watch it tomorrow. Losing, but what is the loss here, right? Yes, if you are buying up here, then you have a lot of loss, because further from clouds you buy, more your risk. Closer to clouds you buy, lesser your risk. But if I'm, buying here, then I'm stopping out here, that's not a big huge risk, because FUTU push runs, when it runs for $10. So $1 or $2, it's fine for that loss on FUTU. Next one, let's look at Boeing. Boeing was our morning trade scalp before it faded. Let's go back and look at the Boeing levels. Mm, This was not like an all-day trend move, but let's look at Boeing. Boeing resistance was 175, resistance 176 pivot, support was 174.22 and 170, 161. So 175 and 176. When I saw the strength, and in the morning I told everybody to long it versus 174.30, because it was breaking out of the pivot that I just showed you, and we did. My 178 was my target, and we hit 178.49, and that time we had taken most of the profit, because when it's extended from EMAs, it's going to pull back. 178 target met, it came back to cloud, we were completely out of the rest of it. So after that you could short it if you want to, but this was an 8:30 to 9:30 to 10 a.m. trade, Boeing long. So that was a decent, nothing special, small scalp trade. So then we have our DKNG. That was our all day short. Let's go back and look at that. So DKNG, whatever the news was, Illinois state approved the budget. Support was 37. So support, the betting tax is getting increased. So support pivot was 37, resistance pivot was 38.86, bias was neutral. Watch this 37 pivot, right? Now watch what happens here. So watch what happens here, right? What does happen here? DKNG, first it breaks this 512 cloud support. That's my first signal to short it, right? I missed that. Then it breaks the real pivot, right? But when I see this weakness, right, if I go to let me go to 3 minutes so that I can show you, and you can time it according to my timestamp guidance. When I saw this weakness, right, these two candles trying to pop here, so 937 was right about here when I posted about it stays heavy, and then there was a short, right, and already gave the guidance. It's if you have watched my previous recaps why it's a short here. This is confirmed short, and then you just short it, right? 36 my first target, and then 35 my second target. We were short of the second target, it bounced. Look at this, support becomes resistance, you short it again, and that's what I said rejecting clouds so far, rejecting clouds, and then you short it, and then you again fade it. It's back going into up 35.26. Was a decent trade as well on DKNG, right? Lexi was short, a lot of people were short, and you cover when it reclaims 512. Next one we're going to quickly look at is CrowdStrike. Okay, so let's go back and look at our plan on CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike, top pick by Morgan Stanley, 358 support. That means if 358 breaks, it can fade. 356 break, it can fade. 360 resistance, neutral bias versus the clouds. I was busy in other trades that like I showed you, but I would have shorted it right away, right? But I saw and I told the community that's bearish under the cloud, breaking both the levels that I gave you, 358, 356, gap fill short, just like my 100 times I've shown you this setup, gap and crap, right? And all I told everybody was that it's still heavy, cover into 10 a.m. And then it went on to fade to 343. So from my support pivots of 358, 356, that was a $12 fade. Wherever you traded it into 10 a.m. Understand my 10 a.m. rules. So that was the opportunity there, right? So proud of a lot of traders. They're just really doing good there on a lot of these trades, short, and that's just beautiful. Very proud of everyone. Next one we're going to look at is ROST. Let's see ROST. So what was ROST? So ROST, first thing I told everybody in the morning, day 2 short versus 142. I also provide it in my day 2 sheet. Look here, 141.73, 142.57, and reason because there's a big gap on ROST. There is a big gap. Look at that daily gap on ROST, right? So when there's a gap, there is an opportunity that it can fade. And if you see that, how much did it fade? from that versus that 142. Since I told at 940s, it went on to fade to 137. That was beautiful, beautiful daily gap and crap. Look at this gap. So gaps give you opportunity. So you need to take that opportunity of a gap fill short, guys. So that is the great example. That's why I focus on the stocks with range, with range, with range, right? If you shorted 141s, even then by end of the day you made $3-4. This is the opportunities that you need to capitalize on. Beautiful trade. Well done, guys, in the community. Let's go to the next one. So next one we're going to talk about is some of our day two and setups. Like there was ELF, and then there was Workday. Workday was our number one day two setup. You see that it was a number one day two setup, 220 support pivot. Workday breaks that day two short. Told everyone right in the morning, and then it faded to 211. My target was 210, but that's fine. And then you cover, right, closer to the, this is the morning setup, right? So you guys have to hit it in the morning on this day to setup, and then be ready, right? I told you on Friday, remember what I told on Friday video recap. So big fade right at open, a lot of opportunity. If I go to 3 minutes, if I go to 3 minutes here, I can show you how you could have traded it right at open. Take 100 shares, 200 shares, 500 shares, does not matter. Even if you showed it 218, you made you risked $300-400, but you made $800-900. That's how you trade them. That's how you trade them, right? So same was for our trade on ELF was a day too short as well. From once it breaks that pivot 190, and that's a short. So that was another big short. So look here, right? So ELF has 190 support, 193. So once that support was gone, there was a morning short, right? There was a morning short. So another repeatable setups. And again, I don't trade this everything, but somebody's trading day to short, somebody's trading something else, is trading NVDA, somebody's trading Boeing. So all the traders on the trading floor are trading something else, right? So these are the opportunities you need to focus on and capitalize on. That's why I teach you again repeatable setups. There's another short. I completely missed it. I should have had MRNA on my day 2 day 3 watch list. I did not. This trade idea was by our trader RoboCash, who is in the community, and he's our level 1 trader. He's been alerting RoboCash since morning, you know, um, of the fade, right? It's from the morning, and Marna faded, and that was like day 2 day 3 setups. And you can see that Marna, once it broke that pivot from yesterday's lows, and there was no stopping Marna was still heavy, rode the 512 clouds from 164, 163 all the way to 148. There's like $10 to $15, your target. And look at that. Robocash gave the 150 target in the morning as well. And Marna, there's 150 psychological level, and even faded more than that level. Right. So that's the beauty. That's the beauty, guys. That's the beauty of the community. So many ideas, so many good traders, and there was a 512 call as well if you wanted to scalp it for a few points, but the short was the main winner in the community. So next one we're going to look at is SMCI. SMCI was again one of the losers, and it was a choppy all day. Once in the morning it did not work. I just avoided it after that. So I was long versus this 893 900 level, but once it broke the clouds, and market was getting heavy, by the way, right? So market was heavy, if you see here. So market was getting heavy, and I told everybody that market is heavy, and be cautious, and that's why I cut it, right? And quick cut it right here, and after that it was a short. A lot of traders short scalped it right under 900, under this 893. It faded like 10-20 points. It was a good scalp for you if you were trading there, right? So there was a no long, I told everyone, and it was a long loser. But I personally didn't short it, but there was an opportunity to make your loss back on the short side. Another big winner in the community was ARM. Not going to take too much time, but I'm just going to show you the example. So if you go to my daily list, why do I have ARM every day on my list, right? 115, 113, breakout 117, 116.50, and it was a daily breakout. And once it's a daily breakout, it's going to go. And you see, this is the breakout that I teach you again and again. I even tweeted about it. Range, breakout. So that was it, and we were coming into resistance. My targets on ARM that I gave in the community was around 123, 125s, but it kept pushing for everyone. You can see the community trading all day on ARM. Very nice trade on ARM in the community by, Punjabi Pablo was on top of it since morning at 117 on those pivots. Lexi was on top of it. Pajama was on top of it. Great traders today in the community who were all over these setups. Love the community, guys. Love this morning ideas. So one more out recap out of our day 2 day 3 setup, and I think if you watch my Friday videos, I did cover there on RL. And what was our plan on RL? RL, the day 2 support was 172, resistance was 173.66. Once it breaks that 173.66, then RL is long. You can see the daily chart is in the gap. So RL was a nice push from our day 2 day 3 setup. There was too many plays going on today, guys, but just the show you the power of the system and the setups that you can trade consistently and find so many trading ideas all day long. You see, Apisan was long on RL. Drew was long on RL. So yes, guys, a lot of opportunity. Great start of the short week. And if you want to trade with us, join the community. I think today is the last day of our promo. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Keep watching. Keep learning. Take care. Bye bye.